Have you ever been in a situation where you're pushed to do something completely unexpected, something that makes you question everything? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. I never thought my husband would ask me to do something so crazy with our horse, but here we are, about to reveal it all. You see, I've always loved animals, horses especially. They've been a huge part of my life, and the bond I share with our horse is something truly special. But lately, things have taken an unexpected turn. My husband, always the curious one, suggested we do something totally out of my comfort zone. I knew he had some wild ideas from time to time, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. It started as a normal day, just another quiet afternoon on the farm. We had been taking care of the horses, enjoying the peaceful surroundings, when my husband got this glint in his eye. He started talking about filming some content with the horse, something fun and different. At first, I thought it was just another one of his quirky ideas. He loves making videos and sharing moments with our animals, but as he kept pushing, it became clear he had something else in mind. I won't lie, I was hesitant. The thought of being on camera, especially doing something so unusual, made me nervous. And yet, there was something in his voice that made me feel like I had to give it a try. So, I agreed. But what he asked me to do next, well, that's where things started to feel a little strange. I couldn't believe it when he said it out loud. "Trust me," he said. "It'll be worth it." And so there we were, preparing to do something that would challenge me in ways I didn't expect. As I stood next to our horse, feeling the tension in the air, I wondered if I had made the right decision. Was I ready to do this? Was I about to cross a line I couldn't come back from? As I stood there, staring at the camera, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of excitement and doubt. My husband had always been the adventurous one, the one who would push boundaries and challenge the norms, but this time, I wasn't sure if I was ready. He kept saying it would be fun, that we could create something special together, but my gut was telling me this was going to be more than just a simple video. You might be wondering, why not just walk away? Why not say no and leave it at that? Well, that's the thing. I've always trusted him. He's my partner, my best friend, and though I'm usually the more cautious one, there's a part of me that's always been willing to step out of my comfort zone when it comes to us. But this time, this felt different. I looked at the horse who was calmly standing in the stable, seemingly unaware of the tension swirling around us. Horses are such intuitive animals, and I've always felt like they can sense our emotions. Maybe that's why I started second-guessing myself. The last thing I wanted was to put my trust in something I wasn't fully comfortable with, especially when it involved our beloved horse. But my husband was persistent. He had this vision in his mind, and he was determined to bring it to life. As he adjusted the camera, he looked at me with a reassuring smile. "It'll be fine," he said, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes that I couldn't quite place. It wasn't a typical "everything's gonna be okay" smile. There was something deeper there, something that made me wonder just how far he was willing to go to get the perfect shot. I had to make a decision. Would I trust him and take that leap, or would I back out? The tension between us was almost palpable. And then he asked me the question that changed everything. My heart raced as my husband's voice broke through the silence, his words hanging in the air like a challenge. "I need you to do this with the horse. It'll be amazing. Just trust me." I could feel the weight of his expectation, and yet something inside me couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a simple request. I glanced at the camera. It was already rolling. The lights were set up, and there he was, standing there with that look in his eyes, the one that always made me feel like I had no choice but to go along with whatever wild idea he had next. But this time felt different. There was a certain intensity to the whole situation. It wasn't just about creating a fun moment for the camera anymore. It was as if there was something deeper at play, something I couldn't quite understand. The horse, meanwhile, stood perfectly still, as if sensing the rising tension between us. I couldn't help but think about how our bond with him had always been so pure. He wasn't just an animal, he was part of our family. And here I was, about to do something I wasn't entirely sure of, with the one creature who had always been a symbol of calm and trust in my life. I tried to calm myself, taking slow breaths, but my mind was racing. Why did it feel like my husband was pushing me into something I wasn't prepared for? And what would this video really be about? Would people understand the intention, or would they judge us? I could already imagine the questions, the comments, the scrutiny. As I turned to look at him, trying to read his expression, I saw a flicker of something, something hidden beneath his usual playful demeanor. Was it excitement? Or was it something darker, something I couldn't put my finger on? I felt an uncomfortable twist in my stomach. Before I could say anything, he stepped closer, his voice lowering. "You know you can trust me, right?" I nodded, though doubt lingered in my mind. Could I really? The air felt thick, suffocating, as my husband's words echoed in my mind. "You can trust me." But the more I thought about it, the more it didn't sit right. Why did he need me to trust him so badly? What exactly was he planning? My nerves were on edge, every muscle in my body tensed, as I stood there staring at the horse, willing myself to calm down. My husband, sensing my hesitation, came over and placed a hand on my shoulder. His touch was warm, but there was an edge to it that didn't feel entirely comforting. "Listen," he said, his voice soft but urgent. "This is gonna be incredible. It's not just about the video. It's about pushing boundaries. We've always done things together, right? This is no different." I forced a smile, but deep down, a knot tightened in my stomach. It wasn't just about making a video anymore. This felt like something far more personal, something that went beyond the camera. There was something almost obsessive in his tone, something that didn't feel quite right. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself I was overthinking it, but every time I looked at him, I could see the intensity in his eyes, a determination that made me question everything. And then, without warning, he turned to the horse. "Okay, let's do this," he said, as if he was setting everything into motion. The camera was focused on us. The lights cast harsh shadows, and the world around us seemed to fade into the background. My pulse quickened. I had no idea what was coming next, but my heart was pounding in my chest, every instinct telling me to step back. But I couldn't. Not with the camera rolling, not with him staring at me like that. This was the moment where everything would change. I looked at the horse, then back at my husband, my mouth dry, and a single question raced through my mind. What had I gotten myself into? I stood frozen, my mind racing, unable to shake the feeling that something wasn't right. My heart hammered in my chest, and the sound of the camera whirring seemed to grow louder with each passing second. My husband was standing next to the horse now, his hand resting gently on its mane, speaking to it in soothing tones like everything was normal. But everything wasn't normal. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach. And then it happened. The horse, who had always been calm and predictable, suddenly shifted. His body tensed, his ears flicked back, and his eyes widened with alarm. I took a step back instinctively, my heart skipping a beat. Something was off. The peaceful, trusting animal I knew so well was now reacting as if he could sense the unease in the air. My husband, still oblivious to the tension building, smiled and said, "It's fine, just go ahead. He's used to this." But his words only deepened my anxiety. Why was he so sure? Why was he so confident that everything would go smoothly? I wasn't convinced. I tried to calm the horse, but he pulled back, eyes wide, shifting nervously on his hooves. My hands were shaking as I tried to get him into position. It wasn't like him to act this way. This wasn't the horse I knew. And suddenly, the doubt that had been gnawing at me exploded into full-blown panic. Maybe we should stop, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But my husband's response was not what I expected. He looked at me with frustration in his eyes, his tone sharper than before. "We're so close. You're not backing out now."
The weight of his words hit me like a punch to the gut. It was clear that this wasn't just about the video anymore. There was something he wasn't telling me, something more than just a simple stunt. And as the tension in the air grew, I realized that I might be in deeper than I ever imagined. The air felt thick with tension as my husband's words echoed in my mind. "You're not backing out now." The weight of his demand hung over me like a dark cloud, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. My hands were still shaking, the camera capturing every single moment, every second of doubt that I couldn't hide. The horse was more agitated now, his muscles twitching, as if he could sense the rising conflict between us. I knew something had to change. This wasn't just a simple video. It had turned into a test I wasn't prepared for. I tried to calm the horse again, but he was restless, eyes darting around, and my own anxiety was only making things worse. "This isn't right," I whispered, my voice trembling. But my husband wasn't listening. He was already moving, instructing me to position myself closer to the horse for the shot. "Just trust me," he urged, his voice cold now, as if the playfulness had evaporated into something far more intense. I glanced at the camera. The lights felt blinding, the noise from the camera too loud in the quiet barn. My stomach twisted as I realized the full weight of what was happening. My husband wasn't just filming a video, he was pushing me into something beyond my comfort zone, beyond my boundaries. He wanted me to be part of this spectacle, and I was terrified of what it would cost. Then suddenly, the horse reared back, surprising us both. I stumbled backward, falling hard on the floor. My husband rushed to the horse, shouting at me to get up, but in that moment, something clicked. I wasn't going to let him control me anymore. The tension had finally reached its breaking point. As I stood up, dusting myself off, I looked him in the eyes for the first time, truly seeing him. "This isn't about the video, is it?" I asked. His face faltered for a split second, and for the first time I saw a hint of guilt. But before I could process it, the camera shifted, and the truth came crashing down. It wasn't just the video he'd been after. It was about manipulating me, testing how far he could push me. In that moment, everything changed. I had to decide if I would let him win or if I would finally take control. The horse may have acted out, but it was his actions that had broken the trust between us. The camera still rolled, but now I knew the only thing left to film was the truth. I stood there for a moment, staring at my husband as the tension between us simmered. My heart was still racing, but now there was clarity in my mind. The camera, still rolling, seemed almost insignificant compared to what had just unfolded. I wasn't just going to follow his lead anymore. I wasn't just going to be part of his vision if it meant losing myself in the process. I had to take control of this situation, of my own choices. My husband looked at me, his expression shifting from frustration to something I couldn't quite place. "What's going on with you?" he asked, his voice softer now, a hint of confusion in it. But there was no turning back. I had seen the truth in his eyes, the manipulation, the pressure he had placed on me all along. The way he used the horse, our trust, the camera, everything to control the narrative. It wasn't about making something fun anymore. It was about pushing me to do whatever he wanted. I shook my head, stepping back from both him and the horse. "I'm done," I said, the words coming out firmer than I expected. "I don't know what you thought this was, but I'm not your puppet." He didn't reply right away, and for a moment there was silence between us. The horse, finally calm, lowered his head, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. I could feel a weight lifting from my chest as I turned away, leaving both the camera and the chaos behind. The next few days were a blur, but it became clear that things needed to change. My husband and I had a long conversation, and it wasn't easy. He admitted that he had been pushing boundaries, not just with the video, but with me as well. We both realized we had crossed lines we didn't want to cross. It wasn't about the video or the horse anymore. It was about our relationship, trust, and respect. The camera was turned off for good, and while the video was never released, the lesson was clear. No matter how much we love someone, we can't lose ourselves in the process. Trust is earned, and boundaries must be respected. Looking back, I can see how much I've learned from that moment. I've gained more confidence, not just in my relationship, but in myself. And as for the horse, he's still our calm, gentle friend, a reminder that trust is something we must nurture, not force.